You're listening to the Coach's Journey podcast, exposing the struggles and celebrating the successes in the life of coaches who are action takers and creating authentic impact in today's world. Whether you're just starting out, expanding your reach, or exploding your impact, you're in the right place right now. Stay tuned and be sure to subscribe to this podcast. Now, here are your hosts of the Coach's Journey podcast.
All right, amazing coaches. If you've been kind of hanging around, you've found the link somehow and you're seeing us struggling. This is fairly new for us. This is like I think the third podcast we're broadcasting on YouTube and then sharing it live in our school group. So we apologize for a little bit of a delay around that. You can see us working through this as we're going. We're excited for our topic today, and our topic is around potential. How do we get our clients to go towards our potential? And our assumption, go towards their potential. Our assumption is that our highest goal as coaches and even as human beings, we'll talk about that in a little bit, is to get our clients to go towards our potential, towards their potential. I keep saying our potential. Go towards their potential. And we want to have a discussion around this. And this is the sixth podcast episode that we're doing that's following up on what we started with, is that we talked about questions, we talked about going deeper with emotions, your emotional intelligence, relationships, all sorts of things that we talked about in the past 6 sessions. Now we want to talk about is how do we land this into our philosophy as a coach, and how does this work with our model when we're serving clients, and what are the things that we need to be aware of. And if you haven't listened to our podcast before, this is the Coach's Journey podcast. It's been sponsored by Coaching Mastery Community. We're a community of incredible coaches from all around the world supporting each other to build our business and craft, refine it as much as we can to serve our clients at the highest level. We have actually recently moved over to school. You will see the link somewhere below. We actually have a promotion coming up. It is up right now until April 1st. For the first 50 members who join, they get it for $27 a month, and they get the first 30 days for free. And if you're already in school, welcome. We're so excited to have you there, and we're so excited to support you there. Why don't we jump into the topic, Daniel?
Yeah, and if you're watching this on school or not on school, and you think you want to join us in school, we already have filled up 60% of our first 50 spots. So you have until April 1st. If you watch this after April 1st, you can still join us by going to whatever link in school we have ready at that time. So, but for now, welcome, and let's talk about the potential of our clients and how we go about that and why it's so important. This is such a good topic. I think the potential is actually the fundamental foundation, I think, of all coaching, if you think about it, because people come to coaching because they want to go in a particular direction or some direction, or they need clarity, whatever it is, but it's all about, I have more potential than I see right now. Like, potential is this fascinating thing. It's like, we all have infinite potential. What is the potential we can reach and expand into today is a different question than what's our infinite potential, right? So our job as coaches is to assume this client has more potential. That's why they're in front of you. And if you don't think that, then maybe that's not good for your client, right? Maybe it's not good for that relationship, because even if client comes to you with a very specific goal, like, I just want to accomplish this thing. Well, they have the potential to accomplish the thing. I love the word potential because it can be used in so many different ways. Even like if you go to physics, potential energy, it's really interesting. It's like it has the potential to do work because it has potential energy. Energy can we use to do that work, right? So anyways, it's really great. I love this word. And if you don't like this word as a coach, I'd ask you to reconsider. You need to learn to love this word.
Reconsider the career path or the word?
No, the word potential. Yeah, you gotta love the word potential. My personal bias.
So, and I would go as far as to saying whether they have been my coaches or the amazing coaches that have been around me, that I've worked with, that I've learned from, that have been colleagues, that have been mentors, coaches, and collaborators. The one common theme that I've seen over and over is that the best coaches are those who are able to see the potential in others before they can actually see it in themselves. And they can actually communicate that energetically. And by the way, this is the part you cannot hide as a coach. If you don't believe in your client's potential, they will read it subconsciously. You don't, and this is where you borderline on the unethical sales process, where if you don't believe, but you're saying it just for the process for the purpose of sales, it's for the purpose of your business, they'll pick it up at one point or another. If they don't pick it up right away, they'll pick it up in the next step. And plus, it affects your ability to serve the client quite a bit. So it will not be a good relationship anyway.
You got to believe in the person that you're selling coaching to. Because if you don't, what are you really selling? I don't believe in this product for you. Go ahead and buy it because I want some money. No. Yeah. But let's talk about potential, and maybe we could dive into, there's like different aspects of this. I think the first half is like the client's potential. There's a whole nother half. There's multiple halves, actually, not just two halves. One part, I should say, is the client's potential. Another part is the coach's potential to grow, because part of coaching is a growth process for coaches. And then there's also like the macro version of this is like the human race. We all have potential. The lens through which we see the world is what's possible, right? And so it's like there's a coaching lens of potential. Applies to clients, applies to ourselves, but ultimately it comes from the application to all of humanity, right?
And that lines into your philosophy as a human being and your perception as a human being. How do you look at other human beings? That makes a big difference as to how you approach it. So we can actually approach it in those three ways. Is that okay?
Yeah, let's start with the human being.
Your potential and your general perception and philosophy as a coach, how you look at it from a human perspective.
Yeah, let's start with human beings, because that kind of sets the foundation for the conversation too. Like, I think this is one of the things that drew me into coaching without me realizing it, is like, I always saw the potential in people really, really quickly, and to my detriment sometimes, because I would get into, business dealings with people who I saw the potential of business dealings, but I never thought about the risks, and I never thought about the potential for challenges too. Like, I always had a tendency, I still do have a tendency, to be ultra optimistic. And that is actually a thing that I have to figure out how to balance with realism, actual data and risk management. If you are an optimistic person, it's a strength, it's a superpower, right? To see the positives, right? And be able to see like what's possible here. I think that's actually a superpower, and learn to realize it's a superpower I have. But every superpower comes with its kryptonite too. So you can lose a lot of money by thinking, I'm so optimistic about this stock trade or this business investment or whatever. And you can really lose a lot of money because you didn't think about all the other things you also need to think about when making those kinds of decisions. Back to the fundamental point, I've always believed in potential of people. And I've always found, people that I meet, people in my family, I always think and believe they're capable of more. They're capable of whatever it is they're searching for, even if they have challenges in their life. And that fundamental belief has kind of driven a lot of my interactions over the course of my life. I think both in good ways and in negative.
I'm actually going to think through this together with you, because it's bringing up a lot of thoughts around this stuff. My perspective on this has shifted a lot since I started as a coach than where it is now, for the good or the bad. It's just, I think also partly its experience gives you some data as to. So I'll tell you what I used to think. I still think that generally speaking, exactly the same. I think everybody has the potential for growth. Everybody has the potential for change. Everybody has the potential. I don't think that's specific to one person or one set of group of people or one type of person or anything like that. But over the course of the past decade that I've been doing this work, what you realize is that there are people who are ready for growth and there are people who are not. And this is the part that actually coaches miss too, because we believe, like, this is the why we came in, because we believe in the potential of people. So we will go talk to anybody to try to help them in that way. But actually, I found that a majority of the people are not ready for that kind of growth. They have the potential, but it hasn't been activated in their own consciousness for them to want it. So they might be somebody who might need to just go through whatever they're going through right now, or maybe they need a social support structure. They need to just work through whatever they're working through, or they might need therapy at some point because they're struggling with a lot of things. But there are very few people that I've met that are actually ready to grow. Even those who say that they're ready to grow, I've learned to check in with them multiple times and challenge them in that area, because people say a lot of things, but when it comes to their actions, they show the complete opposite of it a lot of times. And nowadays, especially, we live in the world of personal development has become a big thing. Like self-help has become a relatively bigger thing, at least in certain industries and certain groups. So it's also become like a hip thing to say that I want to grow and I want to do this. But when you actually get down to it, it's very few people who actually see that, you know what, they have the potential to be something or do something or contribute in a way or create something that matters. And they have a sense of purpose around it, or at least they're seeking that. And that actually already puts you in a niche environment as a coach. We're not even talking about your niche, but like coaching is a niche thing. At least that's been my experience so far. So has shifted a lot towards a bit like I qualify a lot more who I want to work with now versus in the past. I was ready to coach anybody.
Coach anybody.
Anybody who could talk and walk. Actually, not walk, but could talk. It was my...
Yeah, and today I would agree totally with what you said. For me, it's been, I can coach anybody at the beginning, and now I'm realizing you have to add a couple things. Who is ready to learn, or is ready to grow, and who wants to grow, and also is a good match for me as a coach. There's so many other qualifiers that I've added to that as I've learned by trying to coach everybody, including family members who don't want to be coached. And actually, going back to what you said, for those who are ready, I remember one of my first experiences with getting help from a professional was I went to therapy a long time ago for the first time because I was struggling with some things in relationships, and it turns out that I actually needed that. I didn't know it. So fortunately, I had benefits through work, and that allowed me to afford to go because I wasn't like about to put money into my own growth. What? At the time, I was like, it was like $50 to $60 an hour or something. And I still had a copay, but it was like small. Like, okay, I'm willing to like not invest very much in this.
Yeah.
I sensed the need for, but when I went in, I remember that first session, I said to him, like, what I really want is you to push me. And he said, okay. And then, so then later on in sessions, as we continued, he said, hey, remember you told me you wanted me to push you? This is me pushing you. And I'm like, oh, okay, you're right. And actually, it did work to some degree for me to have said that because it indicated like, there's something in me that wanted to grow, but I wasn't like quite ready. And so there's like, it's not very obvious, like 100% clear. Are you ready to grow? Sometimes you have to like take those initial first little steps, and then somebody else can help you open that door. So ready to grow is not this binary yes or no. Sometimes it's like, it's a journey in itself.
And I want to share a little bit in how I look at that in my personal life. So my wife jokes around about this sometimes. So I'll say something in a social setting with my family and friends, and she'd be like, "Oh, she's just putting the seeds in there or sowing the seeds in there." Because I've said that to her before, but she's kind of spilling my beans. Because I will share something, I'll ask something just to see if I'll recommend something anybody's interested in. So I think that everybody has a potential, but I want to see behavior change. I want to see their interests. In the past, it would be like, let's go work through this. No, I will ask a question if I see something or hear something, I'll share a perspective or I'll say something and I'll see what happens with somebody when they do it. And I will watch. And I see that there is a point that happens where you will see it. And that happened with a few of my family members and friends. They started looking into certain books. They started talking about it more. They're the ones who became interested in it, actually ended up working with a couple of them over the past few years. And they've grown so much. It's just incredible. It blows my mind when I look at it. But I remember in the beginning when I used to try to help anybody, it would completely go the wrong way because they weren't even ready. And I didn't understand that the whole process of coaching is for those who are actually ready to grow. And I think Dr. Sherry shared the good distinction is that therapy might be that you're going from struggling to average. Coaching might be from average to great. And most people are not ready to go beyond average, to be honest. They're struggling with the average. They don't even know what that looks like past that. So as a human being, maybe as a leader, you want to sow the seeds. You want to share you want to see where the limits that people are operating and maybe push that a little bit, but not from a coach's point of view, but more from a leader point of view or a human point of view to see who's ready. And those are usually the leaders in any group and any community who are ready to actually grow.
That's actually the qualifier to like the potential question. Like everybody has potential, but who do you as a coach want to work with?
Yeah.
It's a great question to qualify a tendency to see potential in everything. And qualifying means to narrow it down so
Yeah.
you can live a life and a business that makes sense, right? That is actually beneficial to you and the people around you. It's not always beneficial to you to try and coach everybody all the time, even though you can try.
And actually, let's address this part because a lot of coaches are heart-centered. They feel weird about, oh, just making it about money and business. And I actually learned this from Brendan Bashar. I liked it, the way he framed it a few years ago. He's like, if you really want to help everybody else, go put out content, go put out information, go put out a lot of stuff where you're not involved in. And that's actually part of the reason why when I started my YouTube channel, is like, initially I started doing that for people who wanted to learn more about the things that I was sharing and my clients. So I started, and I actually didn't want to talk as much in my own coaching calls because I noticed that I had the need to share a lot of times. Like, that's my problem. I need to find a channel for that. So I started my YouTube channel, and all the things that I'm creating, my courses, my YouTube channel, all groups, everything else, those are there for people, whether they can afford it or not. They can do it at their pace. And if they feel connected to me, they will go through that. So that alleviates my thing around is, okay, well, so even if I go through a coaching call, I realize it's not the right person, I will send them all those resources. I will give people access to a lot of my stuff. Just like, when you're ready, let's get on a call again. But I don't feel like you're in this, you might be the right fit for this kind of coaching. And I've said that to a few of a few of the potential clients that I connected with. So that might be, if you have that, then it's actually your responsibility to create that for your clients.
Yeah. Yeah. And actually, I do have that, Faisal, but it's interesting. We have different historical businesses here. I am not on social media yet.
I know.
I'm actually
So this will be interesting to hear what you think.
Yeah, I'm working on a plan to do that. And so I don't actually, I kind of avoided social media for a long time. And you can actually run a business, which I do, a coaching business, without any social media. You don't have to do it.
Agreed.
But I've been feeling more and more recently, like I feel very successful as a coach without that. But I've been feeling more recently that I need to step up my game in terms of the impact that I can make. I'm recognizing I have a desire to impact more people, but not necessarily a desire to spend all my time coaching those people who don't like. It's more like I love coaching. I will spend more time coaching. What I think I'm saying is social media is an opportunity to spread a message. And it doesn't have to be like, I'm going on TikTok or I'm going on YouTube or something specific about social media. There's a way to share impactful things with people to help them go towards their potential, not necessarily to coach with me. Because, yeah, sure, some of these people will coach with me, and that's great. You don't need to have clients, but I can have clients without that funnel at all. So there's actually two things. One is to be a voice in the ecosystem, actually contribute to the positive and helping people go towards their potential in some way, then all the random, that leading them sort of for their potential. And then secondly, as a coach, I'm getting to the level where I feel like I need to brand myself more and show credibility and presence, because the clients I'm working with are they're higher performing, they're more connected, they're more successful. And so somebody who's coming in to meet me, yeah, I get like I've been in the past, I've been a lot like, the movie Hitch, where Will Smith is this super high end coach for like very specific people. And actually I really like that movie and character. Like
I do too.
He has this little card here, give this card to your friend. And it's like he's like
Very discreet.
the greatest secret, right? And I kind of related to that in a way. Like, I don't feel like I want to engage in all the stuff. Like typically you do coaching, but now I'm ready for like a little bit more of a presence online. So that's a couple reasons why I'm planning out how to do this for myself. I'd be just transparent. I haven't done it. So you can run a business that helps achieve potential for people either way.
In fact, actually, social media might be the most inefficient way to do that in the beginning. Social media is always a long-term strategy. If you start in business, you want to leverage your network whatever you're part of, and we've gone in detail around that when we talked about the marketing. And so definitely watch the podcast around marketing. We talk a lot about what are the best ways to get clients. It's not always social media. I will say this: there's something that has shifted in the online world and social media that's been happening the past year or two that was not happening a decade ago when I started out. When I started out, it wasn't necessary for you to get to even now, it's not necessary for you to get clients, but branding has shifted a lot. Nowadays, there's the concept branding has become not just for those who build a business, even if you're looking for a job, you need to have some kind of presence online, whether it's on LinkedIn or somewhere. So people, that kind of partially becomes your resume. Your LinkedIn has become your card. So every business, really, really good brands and businesses that I'm following, just the past couple of years, their narrative has shifted. It's like a few years ago, I would have said you don't need to be on social media. Now it's absolutely necessary for you to build a brand. And a brand is a long-term strategy. It's not a strategy for you to get clients now. It's a long-term strategy.
That's exactly what I'm feeling. Is like the thing I was describing before is exactly that. I feel the need to have a cohesive personal brand online in some
Yeah.
form that aligns with who I am. And so that takes some strategy and planning. And that's the stage I'm at now. So by the end of probably this year, you'll probably see a lot more of my brand. Right now,
Awesome. I'm excited for
I'm
that.
just kind of invisible.
Well, look, on your own personal coach, in your own personal coaching business. So, and this is a part like we want to communicate is that one of the reasons why our community is really powerful is that we didn't build coaching mastery community because we're these business coaches who are training other coaches because this is our primary thing. There's a weird misconception in the coaching world is that for you to make money, you need to be a business coach. It's actually not true. My business coaching for me has been there for the past couple of years. Most of my career in the coaching world has been high performance coaching, mindset coaching, whatever you want to call it. That's where I've created my impact. That's where I've created my financial gains. Business coaching can be useful if that's what you feel called towards. I felt called towards it, but us as a community, every member, I think every member has started as a life coach, transformational coach, mindset coach. They have actually started we've all built our businesses based on that. So our business coaching is coming from the frame of it. We know the experience of being a mindset coach. And that's a very important, by the way, the business coaches that I've hired for myself, I've made sure that they've been a life coach or a mindset coach for a while, because that makes a difference in how they direct you.
Yeah, I love that, Faisal. Which brings us all the way back to our original point, like potential, which part of my potential is to have a bigger autumn brand to support the things that I'm capable of doing in life, which requires that level of branding and credibility that I want to build for myself. So, but going back to the potential of other people, this kind of like touches on the other 2 points, which is the potential that I have as a coach, as well as the potential of my clients that I believe in. Let's maybe, instead of talking about just general potential, let's get into like potential of our clients and ourselves, because I think there's a huge link between those two things. If you believe in, like, and this happened to me as I grew in personal development, I never saw myself in the way that I saw other people in terms of potential. Like I had to raise my own confidence. Like I would believe in other people's potential. Like even in dating, I would date people who I really believed in. I just didn't believe in myself, enough to have the confidence to be able to believe that I could make a long-term relationship work, or that I wouldn't be able to live up to that in some ways. There's so many parts of this, but I spent a lot of time believing in other people's potential. And then eventually I learned through personal development and self-growth, the bigger challenge was actually internal, to start believing more in my own potential. And then I started writing a life vision and started like working on myself and my own challenges and personal development. And over a long period of time, I started believing more and more in myself. And that took a long time, more than a decade of conscious work to really get to the point where I felt I could have a solid relationship. And now I'm married, have kids and stuff, but like, that took a long time to get to that place where I felt confident enough to make a choice for that. And part of that is believing in myself. And so what came naturally with believing in other people, I had to raise myself to believe in me and my potential, which if I believe in everyone's potential, it's not really consistent to not believe in my own potential. If you don't believe enough in yourself, just think about how you think about your clients, and is there any congruence there? Because there was for me. And then once you can live at that level, now you can help your clients live at that level too, of believing in their own potential. That's kind of was an opener for me in coaching too.
So I had a session a couple of weeks ago with my coach, one of my coaches, and there's a term that came up which I really liked, at least in my journey. And apparently there's a book on this, and I need to read it. It's for therapists, but I think it'll be helpful for coaches too. I haven't read the book yet, but I love the term. And he mentioned as he listened to my story and as we were working through it, it was a very emotional session too for me. He's like, there's a term for you. Like, what is that? He's like, the wounded healer.
Yeah, that's the name of the book, right?
That's the name of the book as well. And he said that there's a book on that too. But and as soon as he said that, it became very clear. And almost every coach that I've talked to, they've gone through this struggle, this journey themselves. They're aware of it, and that's part of the reason what has landed them. So there is another motivation that they have inside of themselves. A part of what they're doing is because they're going through their own healing journey. And I can tell you, I've grown a lot as a coach in my sessions. Being a coach, I've grown quite a bit just because I've worked with clients, because your clients will reflect back a lot of your own stuff, especially because you're going to attract clients that are similar to you if you're doing this authentically. You're gonna attract and there's no way to get away from that. And as you explore their stuff, your stuff is going to get explored in the process. And of course, you do need to do your own work of getting your coaches in the world. But I think a huge part of our potential is connected to this, because I think at some level we recognize as coaches that we need to do this to also grow. And this makes it connects it back to your point, Daniel, that you want to find the right clients for you as well, because it's also connected to your own growth as much as it is for the client. And the more you grow, the more your client grows.
And that brings it back a really important point. If you really want to activate your client's potential, you got to activate your own potential, because it's the mutual growth that actually fuels relationship. And as the client grows, they're capable of more. As you grow, you're capable of supporting them in more ways and in more of what they need, because you're growing together. And oftentimes the growth might align so you can continue growing together and you keep on re-enrolling. Sometimes it goes away, and that client, you're not the right coach for that client anymore because they've grown in a different direction. I remember this lesson from when I was a little kid, and I had a piano teacher. I mean, I don't think I was little, probably was in my teens. I had a piano teacher, Melba, and she was like a really great piano teacher because she understood I had a lot of potential, and she knew that I could do a lot more than I was doing with my previous piano teachers. She got me to make a lot of progress in piano. But then there came a point where she's like, I think you need a different teacher now. So I've given you the most that I can give you. I really care about your potential, wanting you to grow. You actually might need a different teacher. And so she sent me to like the conservatory or whatever people. And that was a very different experience because it was like a bigger company. And that person that I went to was able to teach me at a higher level, but might have been missing was that belief in potential as well. I didn't necessarily feel the same energy. But I remember thinking to myself, like, oh, she doesn't want me to do it. It took me a while to figure out, actually, she's really trying to help me. Right. And so like that stuck with me. And there's sometimes you'll have clients that kind of graduate, and that's okay to graduate. It's okay to graduate. If you are a high school teacher, you love teaching high school, and you want to graduate and go do something after high school, wouldn't you want to support them in that? It's like high school teachers are almost more important than the next teacher because they help you figure out your path. And whatever the spectrum of journey is for anybody, you're part of that spectrum. There's people that came before you, people that are going to plan for you. So don't attach yourself to their process. The only attachment you need is to their potential.
Yeah. Yeah. And that makes you a really good business owner, ethical business owner, and also a really good coach. Some of the best experiences I've had as a coach and a business owner has been those kind of experiences where I've stopped and said, you know what, I think you need a different kind of coach, a different kind of mentor. And I've actually connected them with people, and I have done the work to do that. And I've actually gotten them to switch purposely for me. It was like, I think this is as far as we can go with this. And there are times where I've actually ended up collaborating with my clients because they've grown at a very similar level as I am, and I saw their potential there, and they saw that they could work with me. Like, those have been some of the best experiences from my own conscious perspective. Is, you know what, I needed to be honest in that process, like what happened. This is also part of the reason why, and this will happen for a lot of coaches, many coaches, as they grow their business. I've had to surround myself with other coaches who have either complementary skills or different kind of models that they're operating on. So I can give the client an expansive experience of coaching. Like and that's been my experience as well. I've needed different kinds of coaches. So I'm like, why don't I've had to do a lot of hard work to find all these coaches in different places. What if I can provide that for my clients in one place? And that's actually helped me grow as a business owner too, is that I've connected and collaborated with coaches who can actually deliver different models of coaching that I can't sometimes. And that's where my limits are.
And actually, if I know that good idea for Coaching Mastery community, at some point we're going to be able to serve clients through the coaches in our community. I mean, we already are doing that in some ways, but we can actually bring all these different types of coaches in to the community and be able to match people one day in the not too distant future. That will be a reality. I wanted to ask you about what some of you, which is the models. So like we have maybe 5 or 6 minutes here. Let's talk about our different models for how we help identify, or not identify, but how we help go towards their potential. I want to hear from you. What's your model?
So
we don't have a ton of time. So like, just like the,
I'm going to try to do this high level because there's a lot in there. But what I usually, one of the things that I'm trying to find out as soon as I get on a call with a person is what is their perception of their world and the limits of their perception. What is happening and what are they aware of and what are they not. One of the ways to do that in coaching is to find out how far out can they see it and how clear it is. So I get them to see that. I get them to ask a lot about their long-term process, long-term part of their world, like their vision, their sense of purpose, how they view the world around them, how they view their relationships, how they view themselves. I do a lot of discovery in that area to even figure out where they're at and what are the limits, so I know where to push and where to challenge them. And that process can take multiple sessions to go through, to be honest. It starts with the first initial session, but I want to understand where they are. And the reason why I do that a lot, because the most successful clients that I've had, or the clients who have grown very fast, are those who usually are incredibly clear long-term, and they have a sense of purpose, and they're connected deeply with themselves and the world around them. They feel a high level of engagement with themselves in the world. And wherever there are gaps in there, that helps me push them towards one step at a time towards that process. And this is why when you do actually coaching, you need quite a bit of time with a client sometimes. And sometimes they've done a lot of the work. You just need to kind of give them a nudge in one direction or another. And this is why I've gone on calls in the past decade. There have been at least 4 or 5 people that I've gone on calls with. By the end of the call, I've told them, like, I think you got this. I don't think you need me here. But they got a lot out of that call. They've been actually my best supporters in terms of referrals. But I realized that they are in a different place. But and then there were other clients who I could see a lot of gaps in what they're trying to do, and a lot of gaps in clarity, a lot of gaps in purpose. And they knew it too. And the more they realized, they're like, oh, there's no way for me to go towards that potential unless I'm clear about these areas, unless I've experienced these areas, unless I've worked through some of these areas. So that would be overall I want to understand these areas with my clients. And a lot of that goes towards discovery.
I have a very similar, like all the things you said, I think I do. I think maybe I'll talk about it from a sort of tactical, like logistical version of, which is like what key things to put in place. My basic model from a tactical perspective. So when I get people into coaching sessions, I want to understand the perceptions in their future, but I really take them through, like, what does the future look like for you? What do you want in the future and why, right? It's like sometimes people are super clear on that, which they've done a lot of work, and they need help executing. Sometimes people are super unclear about that, and they need help figuring it out first. And so I call that the ultimate. It's a tool I learned from Evan Pagan, which is, what is your ultimate scenario? What are you aiming for? Sometimes I use the analogy, like, if you're lost in the forest, you need to know where the river is, and just go, and you don't know exactly where the path is. You just go towards the river. On the average, you get there, right? And what's the fastest way we can take you to the river? Sometimes I call it, that's the lighthouse. That's the direction we travel in. And that's when you have a clear ultimate. Sometimes it takes a few sessions, like you said. Sometimes a client is taking like 4 or 5 months to get that clarity there because there's so much there. And so my one way into potential is to figure out what's the ultimate scenario. And exploring that deeply is really helpful, because whatever then this is the other part of my model, is that desires are they're your desires. They come from within you. If they're true desires that you have, nobody can question them. Right? If you have a desire, sometimes I say desires are directly from your true, deeper desires. They're coming from God, or they're coming from your potential. Whichever way you want to look at this, desires are the foundational piece. Everybody gets to decide what that is for themselves. And that's part of like the process of figuring out what you actually want, what your true desires are. That's what leads to the ultimate scenario. Sometimes if they don't know exactly what their ultimate scenario is, we try and explore their desires in life and what they want, and kind of helps them. What do I want my life to look like at some point in the future? And then the other part of it is sort of a sense of purpose. And there's tools that you can use to help you build purpose statements and so on. But usually it takes at least 6 months to get into a purpose statement. I find to really people who don't have that much clarity yet, getting them to build their ultimate scenario and then circling back to purpose. And purpose actually reinforms the ultimate scenario. So like if you know what your purpose is, all of a sudden your ultimate scenario may shift because this part of my ultimate scenario doesn't really apply because it's not that important to me anymore. So you use these couple of tools, purpose and like what you want it to look like, to figure out what your goals should be. And that's, I take notes on what the client actually needs to work toward. To me, that's their potential. You have the potential to create a life like this that you want. And maybe push them a little farther than that. Say like, is that all you want? Is that really it? And once we know what is really it at this stage, then we can start working towards that, running towards the river, running towards the lighthouse. And then every session, sometimes you learn things and it changes. And so like, it's important to check in often enough with that ultimate scenario and modify it. Because I always call it living document, just like your purpose. Purpose and your ultimate scenario are living documents. They're growing with you. Because as you start to like achieve those things, sometimes new desires surface because they're based on the new foundations. So that's kind of like a little bit of how my model works. And I found that particularly effective as well.
No, I love that. I
A lot
completely
of
agree.
overlap between what you said and what I said, though.
Yeah, there is, and I just want to add just a couple of points. I love that you said that their true deep desires they come from a deeper source, whether they want to call it God, the universe, whatever they believe in, but it comes from a deeper source. But here's the thing: there's a subtle advanced point in there. Most people's desires, like most of their desires, are connected to their social environment.
That's right. Separating that is interesting.
Your job as a coach is actually to separate out what truly matters to them from what they think matters to them.
Exactly. That's why I say deep desires, right? They're true desires, right? Like not the things that they're told to want.
Yeah. But they can't differentiate. A lot of clients have no idea how to differentiate. They don't even have the tools to differentiate. That actually becomes your role as a coach to deeply explore it. And usually the things that matter to people, that will stand the test of challenge, time, energy, all sorts of things. The things that are not, they won't. And the other thing is around really exploring all these areas doesn't just mean that we live in the land of future. That actually helps them live. Actually, they will bring that vision into their life right now. They begin to live it in their identity. So a lot of it becomes about them now, which is really important.
Another piece of the model. We don't have time to talk about those things.
We don't have time to talk about all this stuff. And I also wanted, there is an aspect of the past, their story comes into it as well. That is incredibly powerful. And most coaches don't know how to navigate that because they're afraid of it from a therapy point of view. But there is a very powerful piece of it. If you don't explore that, you don't know how to move people forward. But we'll leave that for another podcast because we're coming to the end. This was just a surface exploration of how can you go towards helping your clients go towards their potential, and how can you view that from our perspective? We'd love to hear from you. How do you approach it? Because we don't pretend to know all the answers. This is our experience around this. How do you approach it with your clients? How do you view it? Share your perspective with us so we can all learn from each other. And just a reminder that school is going to be an incredibly engaged group of coaches who are actually ready to move their business forward. If you're ready to simplify your life, go on a platform where there are actually engaged coaches who are ready to move their business forward, then this is for you. There's a promotion we have until April 1st, $27 per month. Like Daniel said, 60% of the spots are filled up already. After that, it'll be $47 a month. You can still join. Wherever you're watching this, there should be a link underneath. If you cannot find the link, reach out to us on any of our social media platform or go to coachingmasterycommunity.com. You can find us.
CMC coach/school.
Awesome.
SKOOL.
I should memorize that. But Until our next conversation, hope you have an incredible week. Bye.
See you later. Bye.
You're listening to the Coach's Journey Podcast.